Hey, what's up guys, it's me XPC, and happy birthday FusionFall Retro. So, it's been a whole year, or I guess 2 years if you count the tutorial being out for a year, but anyway, it's been a whole full year since FusionFall Retro released. So, I thought I'd make this video and just look back, reflect, and just do a little retrospective on what has happened this entire year. Anyways, I thought I'd talk about, how Retro has surpassed the original game. So the first thing is server stability. If you are a fan of the original FusionFall, which I'm sure 99% of this community was, the game crashed a lot in the original. Like, you could go maybe maximum an hour or two, and then you'd see the Unity crash screen. Most of the time you played, you would see that screen. It wasn't a good screen to see. I would get very, very annoyed. But thankfully, the team has stabilized the server and made it more accessible and more easier. So basically what I mean by that is this frame rate is super smooth. Like, I have this crap computer that I've been using for a while, and the frame rate that I get on FusionFall Retro is 60 frames per second. Maybe not like locked, but it's like most of the time it's 60 frames per second, which is really good. So I think they've optimized it very well. The player movement is smooth. Sure, I crash, a couple times, but it's not as much as the original FusionFall. So that's what I think the biggest piece that Retro does better than the original. The next thing is the frequent updates. When Grygon still used to be a part of developing the original game, they would release updates maybe every 3-4 weeks, and they would always be something like substantial, not like when Cartoon Network took over in 2011, and then they wouldn't update the game for like 2-3 months, but the updates that they did have would be like promotional stuff for like the latest movies. Retro, on the other hand, has released so many different events, permanent updates, amazing, gear, missions, music. It's amazing. So I thought I'd run down just like a timeline of what happened. So obviously, first things first, you got your sneak peek, which released the future, and it was only the future for maybe like a month and a half. But in the meanwhile, there was also the Time Squad event that happened where, and I really wish that it makes a return at some point in the future. But the Time Squad event was basically, there would be a bunch of devs on the map where you had to find those devs who were disguised as Time Squad members, and you had to basically collect like a special item from them. So it was a fun time when the Time Squad event was a thing. But then they released the Past, and that's when the game really took off, and then they even added the Clockwork set. And then the first ever like real holiday event was Halloween with Dracula and Fredburger, and you had basically had a bunch of different types of gear, like the ancestral sets, which I personally really hate. You even had the Big Chill set, a bunch of different helmets. It was a very, very solid event. But that Big Chill set was a pain to grind, I will say. It was fun, nonetheless. Then they had elite bosses, which they introduced. And at first they started with 1, and then they kept adding them with each little event. I think there's like 4 or 5 at this point. But anyways, next thing was Nishmis event with Chowder and the Puckerberries. I believe that's how you pronounce them. I wasn't a huge fan of Nishmis, not like the event in particular, but just the grinding aspect, because the drop rate was much lower than the Halloween event, and those items were a pain to get. It cost me a lot of taros to get some of those items, but thankfully I did get all the items. The next thing was my favorite event, and it's still my favorite event to this day, is the Birthday Bash. So the Birthday Bash is just one huge party in which there was so many different items added, and it was just a big party celebrating what FusionFall was. So Birthday Bash is easily my favorite one so far. I'm really waiting to see how they top that. But after the Birthday Bash, they then announced their plans for 2019, and their plan was to hopefully include every Birthday Bash NPC in a permanent fashion. Like, they already added Dracula, they already added Flapjack, and hopefully more will be on the way. I'm thinking Johnny Bravo might be next. But anyways, when they announced that they also added a small content update with Dracula, with his own missions, which, a fun fact, were actually legacies. His missions are the same as the FusionFall Legacies missions. If you guys have been around for a while, when Dracula had a dev blog for FusionFall Legacy, there was a picture that had his mission names. Those same mission names are now in FusionFall Retro. So I thought that was pretty cool what they did there. But anyways, the next thing was Valentine's Day. Sort of a weak event. It was kind of weak, but it is what it was. It introduced Flapjack and Johnny Bravo, and then later on they implemented Flapjack permanently with his own boss and new missions. Anyways, the next thing was the Easter update, which was also, it wasn't much. It's just they added a new Egger in Peach Creek Commons, and you basically had to make sure you get all the items. That was pretty much it. But I remember it was just a super huge crowd within like the first few hours of the update coming out. It was very laggy, but I never recorded any footage for that. I don't know why. I just didn't feel like it. I don't know. But there was Easter, and then by the way, all those Easter items are like useless now at this point. I feel like that's just me. Next thing, like, there was no updates for like 2-3 months, which is fair because there was finals and final exams going on. I had a lot personally. Then there was racing, which was, look, I'm not a big racing guy. Like, I never did a lot of racing in the original, but for the purpose of getting all those different sets, I had to get good at racing. It was tough. Some of the zones are really tough. Like, the fire pits in particular took me so many tries to perfect. So racing was also pretty good. And then easily my favorite permanent update anyway was the Ben 10 update that just came out like a few weeks ago. Ben 10 update is just straight up awesomeness. I asked for an event. My critiques weren't taken into account. But it's alright, it's alright. I'm hoping there's an event down the line, maybe. Or maybe an update part 2. I know there's a lot of Ben 10 items that need to be released. But anyways, the Ben 10 update was a thing, and now they've added code items now. They added 60 new vehicles, which is crazy, and you see some of these vehicles and you're like, how did you make these vehicles? Like this Dynamut. If you were playing this game for the first time, your time playing this would be fine because it's just more balanced, more streamlined. You're not struggling with experience much anymore, and with vehicles especially, so you can get around faster. With all these updates, they've managed to make better use of some things, such as the Birthday Bash NPCs, and they've implemented them into the game very well, I must say, with their storylines and whatnot. And they even implemented, you know, old features correctly, like the whoosh whales, the Kumari Serpent, code items, the vehicles. I'm hoping they continue with this trend of using that unused content, which they said they are, so I'm hoping they could do that. And then obviously, what's also better with Retro is that they're using original stuff. Original music, original models, like the Spider Monkey model, which was actually made from the ground up, I learned a while ago, and then the missions are all original. If you told me like 2-3 years ago that, hey, you know, FusionFall is coming back, I would have unfriended you right there. I would have unfriended you. But the fact that they've done such an amazing job in just a year is something that should be very much applauded. So I think, you know, if you come across a dev on Discord, just say thanks to them. You know, they worked hard, very hard on bringing this game back. And just 1 year later, I'm hoping we have another year of just crazy, amazing fun. And this game has been part of my life for too long, way too long. I'm just glad that FusionFall still exists in this year currently. So, you know, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to reflect you know, just like a little retrospective and whatnot. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this unscripted video. Hopefully, if you guys want more, let me know. I do have a few video ideas down the road. By the way, there's an art contest going on in FusionFall Retro. Oh, actually, not just art and writing contest going on. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. I'm not one for art. Maybe writing, I might give it a try. But either way, guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed this year. Here's to a good next year. And yeah, I will see you all next time. Peace.